I'm here to talk to you about accreditation. I've put my spin on it a little bit because I see it as hugely valuable for both the training industry and the welfare of our companion animals. And so I'm very privileged to be a part of some amazing speakers here today. In New Zealand, as has already been mentioned, and throughout the world, animal behaviour and training is an unregulated industry. And that means anyone, as was mentioned by Jodie, can call themselves a trainer, can say that they can fix your dog's problems, that they can resolve your cat's issues. And there's no way of backing that up to know whether they are actually qualified or appropriately experienced to help you. And as I said, while there are many fantastic behaviour professionals out there, we do have growing groups of registration around the world that indicates they are educated, qualified and experienced and maintain your pet's welfare as well as their behaviour. Unfortunately, many people are not. And this is where accreditation comes in to make a difference and change the world. Why was it created? And I'd like to thank, I'm creaking here a little bit, I'd like to thank Dr. Lindsay Skyner and Dr. Erin Jones, who've been a huge part of helping create the CANS accreditation. I just came on board after it and celebrate it, but they did a survey to basically find out, well, do we need one? Is there any benefit? Would you like this to be created? And basically the answer was yes. So we had responses from many professionals, both actively working in the animal training industry and those just on the periphery, and they all said, yes, we do. And this means that we can start to assure members of the public and guardians that the professional they're choosing is actually, qualified to use the tools that they're recommending to help their animal with training issues. I've taken a lot of this from the CANS website, and I would recommend that if you have any interest and you want more details, there's a wonderful video from Lindsay there outlining how this came to be and why we've created it. There's a mission, and I'm really proud to have seen how Companion Animals New Zealand has advanced. I was based in the UK for approximately nine and a half years, and when I came back, didn't really know what Companion Animals NZ was, but in the last 10 years, they've really proved to both New Zealand and when I've been in Australia to the rest of the world that they can actually do something to improve the welfare. And their mission is to promote ethical and sustainable practices by individuals and organisations engaged in companion animal behaviour and training. And this is where accreditation can play a really valuable role in doing that. With the CANS accreditation process, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but basically we have 3 levels of accredited behaviour professionals. We have our behaviour veterinarians. I'm very proud to be one of those, and we're lucky enough that we actually have, I think, approximately 8 now in New Zealand. And without a doubt, I'm proud to be one of them. We are accredited through the Australian New Zealand College of Veterinary Scientists, which ensures that we've passed an exam, we've done the extra study, we know what we're talking about. We then have the CANS accredited animal behaviour consultant, and then we have animal trainers and animal training instructors. And the reason I want to point out this aspect is that there is a ladder to dealing with mental health, and that has previously not been recognised, I feel, in animal training. Anyone can say they're a trainer and therefore they can deal with anything from extreme aggression cases through to teaching a puppy how to sit. And the reality is there is a difference between normal behaviour that requires moulding or training and true mental health disorders. And I want to verify this with how the mental health industry in humans actually applies. You have your psychiatrists, that's your medically trained people with further interest and further training in understanding behaviour. Then we have our psychologists, not medically trained, but still very capable of introducing behaviour modification, cognitive behaviour therapy, psychotherapy, and they work hand in hand with psychiatrists. And then we have counsellors, which potentially dealing with more normal range of human behaviours. And when we look at our animal industry, we have our behaviour veterinarian, that is the term we use in New Zealand and Australia because we have very distinct rules about who can call themselves a specialist. And then overseas, generally they're referred to as veterinary behaviourists. We then have our behaviourists or behaviour consultants, which will usually have more advanced education and training and the understanding of mental health and behaviour and how to modify that. And then we have our trainers. Now, most people who have a dog problem or a cat problem or a horse problem will say, I need a trainer to fix it. But the reality is there is a broad spectrum in normal, abnormal and truly psychologically damaged individuals that require a different approach. This is where accreditation can help fine line that. I got these lovely little pictures. Again, we don't even have this information that I could find in animal training, but this is the overlap in how we can help each other and yet have a more focused, zoomed in way of dealing with particular problems. Our psychiatrists, iatry, we're referring to medical treatment. And this is where myself and colleagues will use medication to assist these animals when they need it, or humans would do the same. That's going to overlap with the psychologists. They study psychology, an animal behaviour consultant, for example. They're going to work together and they are experts. Lower down on the side, we have counselling, so your dog trainers versus psychotherapy, which is your animal behaviour consultants. More normal, they educate, they help. But then moving into psychotherapy, that's going to be used for those more severely disturbed. Now, if we can see this occurring well in the mental health industry, I can't really call it an industry, and we can apply the similar theories to how we treat behaviour conditions in animals, then we can start to look at, hey, why don't we find a way of accrediting, of identifying who is most appropriate for what behavioural concern. And the reason bringing in accreditation is going to help everyone, I'm sorry, I have a lot of words there, I had a lot to say and I wish I could spend all day talking about the benefits. It's a clear platform for professionals and guardians to seek the right help for the condition or the situation that they're dealing with. It's going to provide clear links between professionals who have equivalent ethics and equivalent qualification and education. It's a very lonely industry. And we need more of us to come together and know where we can find help, know how we can be supported in dealing with similar concerns. It's going to build bridges. And I touched on briefly One Health because too often we don't talk about the role of animal training and the role of animal welfare. And I love today's conference to bring that together and recognise that inappropriate training is truly a welfare issue. Severe welfare issue. Myself and my colleagues see the fallout of inappropriate training methods on a daily, if not more often, basis. And it's sad, and it is welfare, and it causes the death and suffering of animals. Being a little extreme there because I think that's the reality and we don't get to talk about it enough. I touched on One Health as well because when it comes to treating behaviour problems, it's not just the non-human animal, it's the humans involved as well. And I like to see that the word education has come up a little bit already, and it's educating the guardians, it's educating the public to make a change, I think, for them to know what is appropriate, to know where to find appropriate help, to know they're not alone. Especially with the changes, with the world events, with COVID, that has increased the stress not only on the animals in our lives, but ourselves. CAN's policy statement, and this is what is kind of a driving force, I feel, behind needing an accreditation, is that they support and promote the use of humane training methods. And that's based on an understanding of the way animals learn, understanding how they produce the behaviours that we're worried about, not just focusing on the behaviours and how we as humans can control them. They encourage the use of reward-based training methods that do not inflict pain, fear or unnecessary stress on the animal. And it's safe to say the SPCA, I quickly looked it up, has an almost identical claim that they support the use of humane and reward-based training. Because without that regulation, there are risks. Too many unqualified and uneducated people offer animal training techniques, and it directly conflicts with our codes of welfare, with our Animal Welfare Act, with the latest evidence-based information coming out of research all over the world. Now, guardians don't know this, and I think it was lovely that Jodie pointed out that what they know often influences their social norms. And so if we don't educate people that dominance is no longer a way of treating animal behaviour issues, if we don't get that information out, then they will continue to fall down the same rat holes. Because as social media has proven over the last, years, you look at the quick fixes and in 5 minutes you can take a very, very high aggressive dog to being perfectly sweet. And that's not the reality. And we need the knowledge for people to look at that and go, that's not true. And the examples of those sorts of inappropriate training methods include prong collars, electric shock collars, and progressing through to verbal and physical abuse, as well as, and I'll touch on briefly, not so much training, but providing the environment for these animals to succeed often involves neglecting their basic health and emotional needs. I know of trainers in New Zealand who will lock dogs in a crate and starve them for 24 hours to put them in a more submissive state. And it's sad, and the guardians who entrust their beloved family members into the care of these trainers don't realise either what is happening or actually the proof the evidence behind what they're doing, and they don't realise that suffering will occur because it's glossed over by the trainers. Very briefly, a few slides here to just highlight that this is in our legislation, and I know New Zealand is forefront, or we were, in animal welfare, and that has fallen down on, I don't know where it's gone. We became out first as animal sentience, and I think it was a very valuable question from someone at the back that said, has that actually changed how New Zealand treats our animals? And I'm not sure it has. It's nice to have it in writing, but I'd like a little bit more oomph to back it up. Now, one of those components were in the Act, they must have the opportunity to display normal patterns of behaviour. Who here thinks it's normal for a dog to sniff when they're on a walk? How many trainers recommend you do not let them do that because they're asserting their dominance over you? And physical handling must be in a manner which minimises the likelihood of unreasonable or unnecessary pain and distress. How many people have walked down the road and seen someone with a dog on a slip lead constantly being corrected? I feel that is causing unnecessary pain and distress, and yet a guardian somewhere has entrusted that trainer to help their dog. Animal Welfare Act. In regards to the person being in charge of an animal, and this may well be a trainer who's taken the dog on board and train. I'm not a fan of board and trains, too much badness can occur. They must have good practice and scientific knowledge, but the number of trainers or behaviourists or behaviour psychology specialists don't have any basic scientific knowledge, and yet they are going out there and offering their services, having people pay them large amounts of money to correct behaviour problems, and yet they lack this, and this is in our Act. The Code of Welfare touches on the methods and the aids that we may use for behaviour modification. And I won't read through it all, but basically we've got a few there that we really shouldn't be using. Internationally, and I've taken just one position state, but there are many international organisations that are created from a group of very well-educated, very experienced people that tell us the same thing. Based on current scientific evidence, American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviour, who have some wonderful resources, recommends that only reward-based training methods are used for all dog training, including the treatment of behaviour problems. Aversive training methods have a damaging effect on both animal welfare and the human-animal bond. We cannot forget that aspect of it. Having a dog do what you like, but them not trusting you, is not the right outcome. There is no evidence that aversive methods are more effective than reward-based methods in any context. There is no evidence. So what can we do about that, and how does accreditation make a difference for our companion animals? Educated and qualified behaviourists will recognise the fallout of using inappropriate techniques, and not only that, can provide alternative, more appropriate and positive solutions. Accreditation will identify those professionals, because how else are you supposed to know? Have you ever looked at a dog training website or a dog training course and see all the acronyms and have no idea what it means? You can fluff over, you can make it look pretty, but accreditation and CAN's supporting that, a welfare institution with many stakeholders, including the SPCA, Dogs NZ, they're going to stand behind this accreditation and say you can trust this person with the life and the mental welfare of your pet. It reinforces the globally accepted view of pretty much any reputable behaviour and training institution, such as PPG. And accreditation acknowledges the need for a holistic view, a One Health approach to improving the lives of companion animals and their guardians. What I love about this is the collaboration. I recently ran a small conference last year to bring together vets and trainers, because at the moment they're looking at each other across the divide and neither of them seem to know what the other does. I really want us to be working together, and accreditation in New Zealand is the first chance we've had to bring that in line. We've got our animal trainers, we've got our behaviourists and our behaviour veterinarians. We can all work together for the benefit of the training industry in New Zealand. And I want that to also be reflected in the support that we give each other. We have a high number of burnout. It's exhausting to work in the mental health professional, which I'm sure many of you recognise. I personally don't do it full time. I still work as a GP vet because I like seeing happy, fluffy kittens, and I like seeing lovely vaccinations where they're not trying to bite me. Animals I can actually touch or be in the same room as. That's the level of aggression I work with when I'm dealing with my behaviour clients. And most importantly, I want CAN's accreditation to stand out to the public for them to realise they can trust the person with those credentials, that they're not just paying a lone ranger who promises a quick fix and they find out after their dog has been permanently damaged by those methods. And then, so the overview of supporting CANS accreditation, it's been out for a few years. We need more people on it. There are different pathways for you to become accredited. If you don't know about it or your area of the industry doesn't know about it, I really want to start supporting and spreading the word so that both the professionals in our industry and the guardians of our companion animals know that they can go to a place and get trustworthy, ethical and effective advice. I want to make sure New Zealand can improve our level in the world of companion animal welfare, and this is one way of doing that. Finally, it's nice and easy for guardians to find us, because at the moment, if you search dog trainer, it's whoever has paid the most for their Google ads. I do have some references just briefly touching on the welfare legislation, MPI, AVSAB. Strongly recommend looking at Companion Animals NZ /accreditation to find both accredited professionals in your area or also information on how you can get on that pathway. And Lindsay Skyner's need, that was the survey that was done to identify that there was a hole, there was something that we needed to do, and they've come up with a solution for it. And I don't have a question slide, so I'll go back. There we go. Thank you again for having me, and I'm more than happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Jess. Just checking if there's any quick questions. Yes, thank you. Pat.
Thank you very much for this interesting talk. I was wondering, what's the status of using electric collars for dogs?
Anyone can do it, anyone can buy it, anyone can recommend it in New Zealand.
Wow. Okay.
We're working on it.
Thank you.
That's very different in the Netherlands. Because then only police dog trainers are allowed to use it. I'm still wondering why, but...
Unfortunately, we do also have Kiwi aversion, am I allowed to mention this, in New Zealand, which relies on shock collar aversion therapy. And it's the only licence you can get if you want to take your dog into our bush.
Okay.
In various areas of the bush, so yeah.
Interesting.
I envy the Netherlands. Okay.
Yep, one last question, and then I've got a few little announcements.
Thank you, Dr. Beer, that was great. Are there opportunities for other animal health professionals to not necessarily be accredited, because we're not trainers, for example, physiotherapists?
I'm so glad to see you guys here. I do not know, David may be more... No, his wide eyes. I think that would be wonderful. I think accreditation of so many industries, daycares, rescues, shelters, physical therapists. I'd like to see more collaboration between physical therapists such as yourself and the veterinary industry. I agree. We're still, there aren't enough of you, I might add. I've been looking for more. So yeah, I mean, I think we need to start with making those bonds, making those connections, and then hopefully formal connections will arise in the future.
Hi, Amy from NZVNA. So just letting you know that the Allied Veterinary Health Professional Regulatory Council is working on getting the voluntary registration for not just vet nurses, but also anyone within the animal health profession. So that will all tie in as well.
They're doing great things. I've been following you guys. Thank you.
Okay. Jess, thank you very much.